Perfect.
So, welcome to the Marketing Business Podcast. Today, we're here with Josh Smith. He's a stock market investor in Phoenix, Arizona, and not only that, but also a Instagram influencer with his marketing page, the Market Hustle. It's really good. I encourage you to follow that. And yeah, I let Josh introduce himself, and I think he's going to do a better job than me.
Awesome. Thank you, Juan. First off, thank you so much for having me on. I really appreciate taking the time out of your day to get this set up. But yeah, my name is Josh. I live in Phoenix, Arizona currently. I am a stock market investor, and I'm also my day job. I'm actually a realtor. I work at a startup tech company in real estate. It's called Open Door, and we're currently trying to challenge the status quo in the industry. So that's kind of what I'm doing. My day-to-day activity. When I have time and I'm off, I'm a big fan of the stock market. I've always been a fan of the stock market since I was like a little kid. I think I was like 14 when I first had an interest, and it's always caught my eye. Just the idea of like growing money has been something that's been super fascinating to me. Um, that being said, yeah, I also did start the Market Hustle. It's Instagram accounts that I started a little bit over a year ago, and it's grown pretty rapidly. The response I got from it has been incredible, and
It's
nothing that I
amazing. You're sitting now at like over 90K followers, right?
yeah, right over. I think it's 93K as of this morning, and it's honestly nothing I expected to happen. Like I thought this would just be like some little fun side little projects with
Yeah.
maybe a couple hundred people, and it's really just kind of grown from there.
Yeah, I've been watching that every day. So it's like last week you were like at 80 something K. Now you're over 90K. It's amazing, man. You're growing like how many followers a day?
Roughly about 1,000, a little over 1,000 a day.
That's the
Yeah,
dream, man. You're doing everything right.
it's pretty crazy. And to think about it, like when I first started, I was super excited to get like 3 followers a day. Like I was like, oh wow, like this is crazy. I'm getting 3 followers a day. And now it's right up to over 1,000. So yeah, it's the way it's grown is it's been incredible. Like the response I've gotten, it's insane. I can't even, so it feels like it's fake sometimes. You're just
Yeah,
like,
but
wow, what's happening?
I've been there from the beginning. Like it
Yeah,
was like really long time ago that we created this like weird group, and
yeah.
I had a travel page that I didn't like use anymore. Like I don't use it anymore now. And you were also starting with your page, and now you've outgrown everyone in the group. It's amazing, man.
Yeah, it's incredible. I can't believe it some days.
Yeah, cool, really nice. So you said you were working as a realtor, and I
Yeah,
thought all the time you were just like being like this stock market investor and giving people advice, and that was your job. I didn't know about the realtor job. Can you tell a
yeah,
little more about your company and what you do, and why are you like at startup and challenge the status quo?
yeah, sure. So I've always, been a fan, additionally to stocks and whatnot, of like the tech industry and all of the disruption that's been happening around that area. Um, but I'll back it up just a little bit more.
Yeah.
So like when I was younger, like investing in general has been something that's been an extreme passion of mine, right? So real estate is obviously another avenue of investing and whatnot, as is the stock market. So there's different areas that you can invest in. So real estate is one that I actually started in real estate before jumping into the stock market. They were kind of around the same time, but real
Mhm.
estate's the one that I really jumped into first.
Okay.
Um,
Sorry, how old were you back then? Just sorry to interrupt you.
Oh, no worries. I was when I first got in, I actually started in with a small little real estate company doing like some paperwork and stuff at like 17.
Oh, okay.
So I wasn't an actual realtor because you have to be over 18 in Arizona to do so.
And you have to like pass an exam and study for it and everything, right?
Yeah. You have to pass a state exam, and then you get licensed after you take some classes. So it's kind of an extensive process the way they have it set up.
Mm.
But yeah, I got that. As soon as I was old enough to get my license, I did. But I've kind of been in the industry ever since I was 17. That's when I kind of got started.
Hmm.
And now I'm 25, a little over 25. So I've been in quite a while. But ever since I was younger, like I've always done research. I've always read books. It's always been a passion of mine. Just the idea of jumping into the game. and then just trying to make something of myself.
Really nice. I think that's how a lot of people start, like a passion when they're teenagers or something like that. Then they start looking more into it. Maybe they got their first internship or their first job, and then this passion grows and grows over time. And then it
Mhm.
becomes like a full-time job for you. And not only a full-time job, but also with a page like yours, the Market Hustle, then it's going to be in some time, maybe passively earning you money in the future. It's not like something happens from one day to the other, but it's been a process. I mean, you're now 25 and you started with 17, and now you're seeing all that work effort doing what you're doing now. I think it's pretty.
Right. Yeah, and yeah, you're completely right. It's something that's kind of, it's like a snowball effect, like it slowly starts to build up, and then things continue to get faster and faster. So, I guess if one thing that one of my biggest like recommendations is like, you gotta be patient no matter what you do. And I know you probably know this a lot, and I say that a lot on the Market Hustle, like for investing and whatnot. Like patience is probably one of the most important uh, things that you can have when it comes to investing. But not only that, like patience honestly comes to any part of your life, like whatever you want to do. Like it all comes down to you got to be patient for it. Nothing happens overnight. Like it's all like a process. And I think a lot of people fail to realize that nothing, you got to be able to strap in for the journey, because it's a long ride. It's not something that just happens right then and there.
Yeah, exactly. I think, and that's more important even for us, like millennials and the younger generations, because we're used to all this instant gratification and instant working of everything. And my mom used to say that a lot, like we younger people lack a little bit of patience. And I think she's right in a way. And she tells me every time that she believes that that's one of the most powerful, like abilities, or I don't know, like traits that her generation has, because they know how it's been before the digital era. And now they can like work more patiently, and they don't get discouraged so fast as we do sometimes.
Definitely. Yeah, that's absolutely right. Yeah. I mean, yeah, and you see that, like you said, you see that all the time. There's so many examples. But yeah, I guess that's the one thing that I would say, like, that's first off really benefited me with my Instagram page, the Market
Mm,
Hustle, is being patient.
yeah.
Um, and not only that, in my investing life and in my career, like all like being patient has paid off tremendously. Like that's one of the biggest um, things I have to be thankful for how I've been able to do what I've done.
Yeah. And sorry I interrupted you. So you started at 17 and now you're working in a startup, right?
Yeah, I'm working at a startup company. It's called Open Door. So it's in the United States. We're live in, I think I want to say 6 or 7 states here in the United States.
Oh.
Um, and the idea of it, like kind of a quick rundown. I don't want to bore
Mhm.
anybody who's not really interested in it, but it's basically just a company where we're trying to do it to where you can buy and sell a house all from an app, essentially. So
Well,
you can
that's
kind
a
of,
really interesting concept. I mean, like, never's done that before, right?
no, it's not, and it's a very challenging process because real estate in general is very complicated and there's a lot of pieces. So to make this actually happen and work, it requires a lot of you know brainstorming and like creativity, because there's so many. It's a lot of moving parts. So the teams that we've been working on, like the last year, it's been incredible. Like the amount of people, very very smart people, that we're all kind of trying to put together ideas to like really make this work. But that's kind of what I do as my, I guess you could say, as my job.
Mm.
But the Market Hustle is something that has gotten more traction, and something I've been really focusing on more lately. And I've always been in, like, ever since I was old enough to invest in the stock market is I jumped right in.
Yeah.
And that's something that is a deep passion of mine, like investing in general, but the stock market in general. Like I really enjoy the idea of like growing money and like trying to find ways to build my financial wealth long term is something that I really focus on. And not only that, like I want to help others, because like there's so many people out there that are clueless on how to get started. And when I first started, back when I was younger, like I couldn't figure out how to get started. Like everything was confusing, and there's so many people out there, like so many like fake, people who are trying to take your money, who are, they're giving you bad advice. And I just realized, there's no one really out there trying to give everything at a simple form, and that's kind of where I tried to come in and try to basically the way I see it is I'm trying to build a page to where my younger self would have benefited from it because it's all simple and easy to use, you know.
Yeah, I think that's a really good approach for that, because I've been there. Like I'm also starting to invest a little bit, and I've asked you personally some questions like, hey, what do you think I should do and everything. And I think that's exactly what your goal is, and I think you're doing a great job, because your posts are so easy to understand. When there's so much information out there, you could spend your whole life reading about the stock market if you wanted to. You know, it's there countless blogs. There are countless videos about the topic, and therefore if you come up to a page like yours, and then you see all the information that you're like looking for, like what's an ETF, like really step by step information, also from beginners to more advanced people. I think that's a really good thing, because a lot of people are now spending a lot of time on social media, and now during the
Sure.
crisis even more. So instead of looking at cat videos, then you can take a look at your page and then learn something from it. I think that's really good, and that's something that I'm also trying to do with my page. It's in Spanish, and that's the point of it, because in English there's a lot of information, a lot of good information,
Yeah,
and that's how I learn everything in English. But in Spanish, I've searched for it, and I haven't find any page that I say, okay, this is really good, and I said,
sure.
okay, maybe I can start doing what I'm missing in my native language, you know. And
Definitely.
I've got a really good response out of it, and I'm really glad I'm doing that in Spanish. But also, like, these interviews are so valuable that I can do it in English too. I mean, my audience speaks both languages, but
Mhm.
I'm trying to stick to Spanish a little more. That's why my whole Instagram is in Spanish and some podcasts in English. But I think that point of helping people and giving your knowledge to others is really important.
No, definitely. Yeah, you hit it spot on. Not only that, like I really like the idea that you've built your page all in Spanish because, like you said, there's not many pages that are like focused on different languages, right? Most of them are just in English alone.
Mhm.
Um, that being said, I talk with people all the time, like yourself, with your Spanish. You have a page all in Spanish. I have a couple friends in Germany who they have stock pages as well but it's all in German, and their pages really do really well because there are a lot of like English pages where they're speaking the same thing with like investing and whatnot, but
Mhm.
there's not many in like the native language. So there's kind of a gap there right now to where there's an opportunity to build those pages where there might be a bunch in English, but some people prefer just to see the language. It makes more sense in their
Yeah,
native
exactly.
language.
It's easier to understand too, and but I think that's also a good thing and a bad thing. The good thing is exactly you're more in a niche, so it's easier to reach your target audience, but also you don't have a big market like if you were doing in English, so you have to like make
Yeah,
compromises. But I think as long as you stick to your niche and maybe sometimes go out of it and do podcasts in English or something like that, it's okay, because it's going to work at the end. But I think if you're going to start a page, you should ask yourself that before you start. So, okay, what's my goal with this page? I want to do something worldwide or stick to my language, and I think that's something people should people should think about before starting something, because in the long run, it's going to determine which direction your page is going to go.
definitely. Yeah, definitely. And kind of to add on to that, it's a lot of people, people who are starting Instagram pages. I notice all the time where they're more focused on, they want to do that, rapid growth, which I get it. You want to build a page as quick as possible. And you're more focused on trying to grow than focusing on the audience that you already have.
Mhm.
And I see this all the time where like people kind of like maybe they have like 100 followers or 1,000 followers, and that's even though it sounds like it's not that many, like that's still 100 or 1,000 people, like 1,000 humans that are following your page. Like that's still a lot of people, and if you if you don't focus on the people you have and you're too focused on the people you're trying to get, like you're going to lose the interest of the people you already have, and it's just all going to collapse down on itself. And I see this all the time. People just are more focused on the other things, trying to like, I guess, like I said, grow rapidly, and they're
Yeah,
not. It comes down to patience, right? They're not being patient. They're not focused, putting the energy on the audience they have, and it all kinds comes collapsing down on itself.
yeah, and I think I don't know if you know this Instagram a business influencer called Jose Peña. He comes from the Dominican Republic, and he was the community manager, so to say, or the guy who grew Alex Becker's page. I don't know if you know who Alex Becker is. He's also another Instagram influencer, and he works with a lot of people. He's really good at growing Instagram pages, but he always says that 1,000 real followers that are really passionate about you are better than 10,000 fake followers. So
Hmm.
you shouldn't focus on the number of your followers. Of course, it's important so you can reach more people, but the most important thing is that your core audience knows you and trusts you, because it doesn't matter if you have 1 million followers and if nobody trusts you, then why, it's better to have
Absolutely.
like 1,000 and really help them, and they will going to help you, you know.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, I completely agree. That's perfectly said. Yeah, and like, the biggest thing that I've, since day one when I first started this page, like the biggest thing that I've been thinking about is how can I bring the most value to the people that are following me, right? Like I've always been focused on the people who are following me and how I can deliver what they're looking for. And for my page specifically, it turns out to be, investing information.
Mm.
And most of the people who follow me are newer investors, like brand new investors. So whenever I make a post, I go with in the mindset of how is this post specifically going to bring the person behind my page, the followers, the most value. And that's kind of how I think through it all. Like, you got to really, first of all, know who your audience is,
Mhm.
understand what they want, and deliver on it. Like that's kind of the formula.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point you say there. You said there, the audience should always comes first. Not only in the Instagram market and everything, but in every business, in everything you're doing. You can have the best product that you think it's going to be a blast, but if you don't know your audience, how are you going to sell that product? You need to
Yep.
know what their desires are, what their fears are, what they want, what they don't want, and you have to communicate in a way that the market and the audience feels like you're listening to them, and that's exactly what you're doing. So you said you could probably post super complicated stuff that are for advanced people and advanced investors, but you choose to help other people that are just starting, because that's the majority of your audience, and I think that's a good thing you're doing.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And I also get a lot of DMs from people who are just starting their Instagram pages, asking for tips. I probably get like four of them a day, maybe four or five. And a lot of another biggest mistake that I see a lot of people make is they're more focused. Like they'll have 100 followers, and like, how do I monetize? How do I make money from this?
Yeah.
And like, you guys are too early in the stage. Like I barely, like I don't think about that at all. I've really tried to, like, even at almost 100,000, like I really try not to think about any monetizing, and more still stay, like I still keep my focus on the audience. Like how can I bring them value? And I get pushback all the time, like, why aren't you trying to make money from this? Like, there's so many things you can do. You could be selling products. And I'm like, I'm really like, my main focus is from my mission has not changed from day one, which is to try to bring value to my audience. And it's what I enjoy. I like it. It's fun to me. Like it gives me something. I feel like I'm able to give back to, people, and people who are looking to learn, from what I've been able to build myself. So this is kind of an avenue to help people who are in the position where I was when I was younger, just starting out, not knowing what to do, and I'm able to kind of give back and kind of help them with some guidance.
Yeah, that's really good. So I have a couple of questions regarding your Instagram page and how you grew it and everything. And first of all, I want to ask you how many times or how many mm, hours a day do you spend working on your Instagram, from as if of today, and how it was like a year ago or when you started. Like what changed so you could grow, so you make it so fast, this growth.
Yeah, no, that's a good question. I like that. So as it stands, like right now, I probably spend, I'd say 2 to 3 hours a day on my page now, versus when I first started, almost about a year ago, I was probably spending about 8 hours a day, 8 to 9 hours a day.
What? So you're
So yeah,
spending 8 hours a day? I thought,
yeah,
crazy, man. That's like a full-time job.
it was.
Yeah.
It was a challenge. Like, and that's what you really have to love what you're talking about. If you're just trying to do it for the money and you don't really love it, like you're not going to be able to grow. It's not going to work.
Mm.
But yeah, so like it was a lot of work in the beginning, and it always is. Like your first, core audience, like your first 100, 1,000 people that you're trying to, like, find and grow, it's the most difficult part of the journey,
Mm.
right? Trying to get the fire started, if you will, of your Instagram.
Yeah.
So yeah, it requires a lot of time, and I really had to, and first of all, I had to learn how to do it all. It was all brand new to me. I'm like, all right, we got to figure out this Instagram stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
So it takes a lot of time.
Nice. And okay, cool. Then I want to ask you, I've been following you for a while now, and I've seen the transitions in the way you put your content. Like at first you had a lot of quotes, and then you started using a lot of like circles for
Mhm.
the logos and everything. And uh, are you changing because you're trying new things, or because you already found out what's working best for your audience?
A little bit of both. So my philosophy is to always be trying new things, with your audience, and like figure out different ways and try to be creative to find stuff that works better. So yeah, I have I'm always testing new post setups and formats and whatnot. And then when I do find one that works really well, I'll start to go all in on that. Which, I mean, yeah, like you said, you've probably seen the quotes in the past. I used to do the blue background, and just the white writing, and yeah, those weren't performing as well, so I just had to keep trying different avenues and different ways until you find something that works. And that's all it is at the end of the day. It's all trial and error, and you just find what kind of works best with your audience, and go all in on that.
Mm.
But don't be afraid to try new post formats. I see that with pages, some people who are like, at 1,000 to 2,000 followers, and they're still using the same format. They're like, I don't know what's going on. I'm like, try different things, try different colors, try different fonts, like just test different things out and see what works.
Yeah, I truly agree with that, because I think if you don't try it, then you're never know going you are never going to know what's going to work best. Of course, you shouldn't like completely change everything, because then
Yeah,
you're going to lose your core audience. But like make small changes, and then you can see, okay, I made this change and then this happened. Let's do something else, and then you can try different variables and then find out what's going to bring you the most value at the end. I think that's a good thing to do.
absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. Second question. I saw, like, I follow a lot of business influencers, and I already saw that the Millionaire Mentor and John X. Paul follows you, and probably a lot of more that I don't know of. Do you speak to these other like business influencers and gurus, or it's not like, or it's just, do they just follow you and like your stuff?
So we've had a couple conversations. We talk, a lot of the influencers, like we all kind of talk in the DMs and whatnot, like very very light conversations.
Mhm.
But I haven't. Yeah, because Jason, he's the founder of the Millionaire Mentor, and I've talked to him a little bit, but he's a busy guy as well. So it's hard to kind of really get a conversation with him as well. But yeah, they're I kind of feel like it's kind of like a family. Like all the influencers, like everybody kind of like is talks to each other and tries to help each other out in a way. But yeah, so it kind of depends on the person. But we do kind of have at least light conversations for the most
Yeah.
part. We
But you
try
don't
to
have like a group or something like that, like a Telegram group, or do you do?
not yet. No, no, no. We do not. Not I have. I'm closer with some of the smaller pages.
Mhm.
Yeah, more of the ones like around my following count. The Impeccable Investor, he's one of the guys that we talk quite a bit actually, and our pages are pretty similar. So
Mhm.
we kind of help. We've done some collabs and whatnot, but yeah. So I like to believe like everybody's really friendly with each other. Even though we're all kind of like in the same niche, and in a way we're kind of competitors if you think about it. But everybody's really friendly and easy to talk to, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, I think that's also a really important thing to do, because not all of your followers are following the other pages. So if you post something from the other page and they post something from you, maybe you can gain followers together, so you can grow together. That's something I do too with other pages, like are also in like similar to my pages. I post stories from them and everything, and it helps. I mean, that's how
Yeah,
you grow.
definitely, definitely.
Okay. I wanted also to ask you, what do you think it was like the biggest thing you did to change the page from like a couple of years, as a 1 year ago or something like that, to where it's now? Like, do you think you can find something you can attribute the rapid growth you're having right now? Also, do you know what I mean?
Yeah, 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 yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, I think um, I'm gonna do a couple of them. The
Yeah, yeah.
first one is constantly posting, right? So as soon as I started posting twice per day, I want to say about a year ago, that's when things really started to change. Because you got to think of it this way: like people aren't going to follow a page where there's not like constant content, right? If you're only posting like once per week or once every 4 days, like you're not going to grow that fast. There's a correlation between the amount you post and the follower growth path that you have. So if you're posting more, you're going to grow more. Like I like to think of it like a fire, right? The more wood you throw into the fire, the bigger the fire is going to grow. So same goes with your Instagram page. The more posts you throw out, the bigger your fire is going to go. Now, you want to make sure the content's good and that it's still resonating with your audience, because if not, then it's going to kind of have the opposite effects. But there's people who get tied up in like making sure their content is perfect, and they're just like every little aspect of it has to be perfect, and it takes them like 2 days to make one piece of content. And like I get that, but you also have to I really think quantity is much more important than quality is important as well, but I think quantity is like the most important thing. You got to be able to throw out content as much as possible.
Yeah, like Gary V says, like, okay, quality is good, but quantity is better, because who decides what the quality is? Do you decide? Do your spouse does your spouse
Yeah.
decide? Does your manager decide, or the audience decides? And of
Yeah.
course, the audience decide what quality is. But to find what quality is, you have to post a lot and different things to try them all out.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I completely agree with that.
Mm. Think that's a really good point. So you talked about posting constantly, that your content has to be good. Of course, do you still use Canva, or are you already transitioned to Photoshop and other things?
So I used a little bit of Photoshop, but I still use Canva for like I'd say 90% of my content is
Mm.
mostly made on Canva,
With,
and it's super easy to use.
mm,
I love it. It's been such a helpful tool.
yeah, I use it too, but the free version. Do you already have the pro version?
Yeah, I upgraded just to be able to have more of the the tools
Yeah.
and do some
Does,
more cool stuff with it.
does it really make a difference, or is just like a little better?
It's just a little better. I don't think like if you're just starting out, you don't need the pro
No,
version.
no.
To be honest, like I like to just some of the stuff that they offer is like more characters, more graphic, like pictures and stuff. And
Mhm.
when you're making a bunch of content, I don't want stuff to be as redundant, so I like to throw in different styles, and the pro version kind of lets me do that. But
Yeah.
you don't need it. Like it's not a necessity to be able to really do well.
I agree. I agree. Because there's also it happens a lot that you try to find like a specific icon, you don't find it, then you just go to another page like flat icon, and then you just download it, and that's
Yep,
it. There's you just have to be a little resourceful about how
definitely,
you come to it. Nice. Okay,
definitely.
then I've seen that you've partnered with Webull and Robinhood. Are
Yes.
those partnerships like affiliate links that you just take the affiliate link and put it there, or did these companies contact you and talked about the terms and everything? If you can talk about it, I don't know if you can, but if you can, then I think it would be interesting for the audience.
Yeah, yeah. Well, they haven't told me I can't talk about it, so I don't mind talking about it. But Webull specifically reached out to me, and I've been familiar with them since I started investing. But I had one of their marketing coordinators reach out to me and ask about a partnership.
Mhm.
And so I of course I wanted to find an area to where it's a win-win partnership to where my audience will benefit from it, and I will also be able to kind of bring in some cash to where I can actually start to build a bigger page, so I have more resources to like make better content.
Mhm.
So Webull has allowed me to do that specifically. We worked out a term, and they pay me. I want to say it's about $45 a follower, or every person that I get to join. So that's kind of the terms that we worked out. But it's the way I see monetization is I really want it to be, first of all, it benefits my audience to where
Mhm.
if they join, they get 2 free stocks. So it's like a win-win,
Mhm.
and it helps me to where I can be able to bring in some money to cover some of the costs that go into running my page, and to be able to kind of work on building more growth strategies,
Mhm.
like building a website and covering all those costs. So it's kind of a win-win, and that's kind of what I looked for in a partnership,
Mhm.
when it comes into monetizing.
Nice. And just if you could explain what Webull is and Robinhood is for the people that don't know which what these apps are, I think that would be also good.
Yeah, that's a good point. So Webull and Robinhood, they're both stock brokerages where you can go and buy and sell stocks. And the beauty of these brokerages is that they're commission-free brokerages. Now, they are limited to United States, and Webull can actually be, you can join from India,
Hmm.
and I want to say United Kingdom possibly.
Okay.
I'm not completely sure on that. But yeah, so they are kind of limited, these two stock brokerages, on where they are, allowing people to join. But the way that I kind of see it is like this zero, no commission stock brokerage that they offer is something that I think they'll continue to expand and hopefully open up to other countries soon. Um, Webull just recently opened up to India, which is a big
Yeah.
market. So hopefully, Robinhood I know is trying to get more into Europe as well. So
Mhm.
hopefully some of these exchanges can um, really build out their innovation to expand to the rest of the world, so everybody has the easy access to invest without having to pay a commission.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's a good point because for the people that don't know, normally when you buy a stock or sell a stock, you have to pay a commission. If you do it via a bank, then they charge you, I don't know, like $5 or $2 per transaction. And if you're
Yes.
doing that a couple of times a day and with not that big of a capital, like maybe I don't know, $20 is like a lot of money for the amount of money you're putting in. So these stock brokerages, like Josh said, they are like facilitating the access to these stocks, and you can buy sell without any cost, and that's a really good thing. We don't have Robinhood, and I think we also don't have Webull here in Europe, but we have eToro. That's like a
Yeah.
similar app to that, and I'm using eToro. It's also quite okay. I've never used Robinhood or anything, so I cannot compare them. But eToro is the same thing for the listeners here in Europe. You can just download the app and you just have to like verify your account and everything. But it's super easy to use. But of course, you should be aware that there are some fees and everything. You should like do your research first before you start investing either in
Absolutely.
Robinhood or something like that, because it's not a game, you know. It's this real money there, and you should not like just gamble with your money.
Not at all. First follow my page and get the basics down, and
Yeah,
then go into your
exactly. Go
investing.
follow Josh. Yeah, that's a good point. Nice. So yeah, we're coming to the end, and I have a couple of more questions, and then we're going to do 10 questions that I'm going to start asking all of my guests. And first of all, you're my first guest in the podcast, so thank you for being
Awesome.
here. Yeah, so I want to talk about the current situation right now, the crisis, the 2020 market crash. If you could like already say that this is a market
Yeah.
crash, what do you think of it, and what do you think is going to happen in the next couple of months?
Sure, that's a good question, and it's a question I've been asked, a lot lately. Um, you know, the first thing is, and one of the things that I preach day in day out is I'm a long-term investor, right?
Mhm.
And my focus is always on 10 years from now, at minimum 10 years from now. And what I can tell you is during market crashes, everything is very nobody really knows what's going on, right? Even the pros, the pro investors, don't know for sure with certainty when things are going to turn around.
Mhm.
And that's why I think more than ever it should prove that long-term investing is the way to go, because in a 10-year period, uh, the market has always, I want to say the statistic is there's a 95% chance that you will be up on your investment if you're invested in an index fund such as SPY that follows the S&P 500. Um, you're about 95% likely in a 10-year period to have profited from the previous decade.
Mhm.
So what that means, let me try to like simplify it a little bit more. Um, the S&P 500 has gained an average of 10% per year since the early 1900s, and this is also something I preach a lot of. Um, that being said, the S&P 500, in my opinion, is one of the best investments newer investors can jump into, because you're essentially betting on first the U.S. economy to do well long term,
Mhm.
and it has a really good track record of doing so. So this fund essentially allows newer investors to jump in and invest into the fund. for the long term. And basically, to bounce back with your question, um, I don't think, when you're investing for the long term, you don't have to worry about what happens next tomorrow, next week,
Yeah.
next month, next year. Your focus is always on the horizon, the next 10 years or the next 20 years. Like, how are things going to be? And if you look back the previous 10 years, even though the market crashed pretty significantly, the S&P 500 is still positive from the previous 10 years. Um, so that kind of goes to show that if you are invested for the long term, you're more than likely going to be much more successful than trying to figure out when to jump in the short term, when to jump out. You're trying to time the market, and that is something that is basically gambling. Like, nobody knows with certainty where things are going to go in the next month or two. And if you try to guess, or if you try to like pretend then that's usually when you lose money.
Yeah, it's just BS. No one knows, and that's something I'm really like. I've I started investing like last year for the first time, and I'm not doing a lot of investments because I don't know much about it, so I just wanted to try it out and everything. And what I'm wondering is like, well, it crashed. We can say it crashed. I mean, I don't know how many points it dropped, but now it's going up again, and that's something I really don't understand, because the whole world economy has a complete pause, and there are a lot of layoffs. A lot of companies are almost bankrupt. The airline industry is really bad right now, and all the travel industry, but it's still going up, and that's something I'm really afraid to start investing right now. I don't know if I'm just saying something wrong, or correct me if I'm wrong, please. But that's something I'm like really careful now, because I have a like it just doesn't make sense to me.
Definitely, yeah, and that's been a lot of people. People are kind of confused. We're having massive layoffs. Companies aren't making money, and the stock market has been booming, right? Which is weird.
Yeah.
The one thing, I can say to that is, the markets, in general, are not they're irrational, right? The markets are always irrational, and if you try to like make sense out of it, you're not going to be able to find the answer, because the minute people try to figure out the market or time the market, or think that they know how the market works, the market always throws a curveball,
Mhm.
like we're seeing now, right? There's always a curveball that has always hit in. And the reason why is because, first of all, when you put a bunch of humans together, like, we all have different perspectives, different thought processes, so you can't see the bigger picture of there's so many pieces. I guess what I'm trying to say, that is involved with the stock market. There's so many perspectives to where, when you combine them all together, it's nearly impossible to know where things are going to go.
Yeah.
Now, that being said, the whole situation with the stock market increasing when we're having record unemployment, there is one theory that goes back to, we had a record drop in the market back in March, where the market fell like 40% in just a couple of weeks,
Mhm.
which is that's almost never been seen before.
Yeah.
So that was a very significant crash in the market. So people that I've talked with and I've done my research on are believing that the market overcorrected during that time period, and now that we're starting to see some, I don't want to call it stability, but we're starting to get a little bit more of a clear picture.
Mhm.
The market is kind of re-correcting back to where it should be.
Yeah.
So that being said, and I don't know, I'm trying to make it as simple as possible,
Yeah, of
but
course.
that being said, um, where we're at now, the market has kind of recovered from, because it's almost up 30% from the low back in March 22nd.
Mhm.
So that's a very significant gain.
Yeah.
But some of the professionals that I've spoke with think that this is the price point that the market thinks we're at right now.
Mhm.
Um, it's basically pricing in where things are. And if things continue to get worse in the next couple of quarters, like if we do have more unemployment, if things get even worse than they are now, then the market will correct for that, and it will, it'll potentially drop.
Yeah.
But it comes down to, like, are you going to sit on the sidelines and try to predict when that's going to happen?
Yeah,
Or
exactly.
because like nobody knows, like, if you would have cashed out back in March, early March, and you're like, I'm going to wait for the bottom. A lot of people try to do this. um, you just missed out on 30% of gains, from March 22nd to now.
That's what happened
Now,
to me.
yeah, yeah. A lot of people tried to time the market, and I'm not saying that it can't drop next month to like another 40%. It's possible,
Yeah.
but what if it doesn't? Like all those people that were sitting on the sidelines have lost money or lost potential gains. So that's why what I preach is to set aside a dollar amount that you can invest every week or every 2 weeks and constantly invest. Don't
Mhm,
listen to the market noise. Just figure out an amount you can always put into the market and stick to your plan.
mhm,
And make sure, ETFs are one of the greatest financial tools that have ever been created, in my opinion, because they're diversified, and they're super easy and passive investment tool for people to use.
mhm.
So if you don't know what ETFs are, Google them. Get knowledgeable. And make sure you do your research. But I like to tell people to figure out a dollar amount they can invest every week or two, and just throw them in an ETF and ride out the waves. For the long term.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point, because it's way better to start investing, if you are going to start investing, then do it in an ETF, because it's like you can afford it probably, and it's not so volatile like a specific stock. Then when you're betting only on one company, if the company does something wrong or they have a scandal like Facebook sometimes does and something like
Right.
that, then it's going to drop, and then you're going to lose all of your money that you put in there. But if you put it in an ETF or an index fund, then
Hmm.
it's more diversified and you're betting on the whole economy. So if one company goes down, it doesn't matter, because there are, I don't know, 20, 30, 40, 500 companies more that are going to hold stable the economy. Only in cases like this crisis, everything goes down. So I think what you're saying is completely true. If you're going to start to invest, try to put some money that you don't actually need at the moment when you're
Hmm.
starting, because you don't know a lot of things, and you're probably going to make some mistakes. So
Right.
don't do it with the whole investments from your whole life and the money you got from your family and everything. Just put something aside that you are comfortable with if you're going to lose it. Like,
Absolutely.
be comfortable with the idea that maybe it could go wrong. So if you're comfortable with losing $20 every week, then do it. If don't, then please save your money and then do it with something else that you're more knowledgeable about.
Absolutely. And just to kind of throw in there, everybody make sure you do your own research before ever making investments.
Yeah.
Take everything with a grain of salt, but at the end of the day, you're responsible for your investments. So make sure you do your research.
Super. Okay, now just tell people how they can contact you and everything, and then I'm going to do the 10 questions at the end, because I think they're running a little out of time, and I don't want the meeting to stop just suddenly. So yeah, just
But do you know how much time we have? I just want to make sure.
I don't know. I think it's 40 minutes, but it's been over 40 minutes. I think just take your time. If it stops, then I call you again.
Okay, sounds good. All right, so you guys can contact me, of course, on Instagram at the Market Hustle. I'm pretty active on my DMs, and I try to respond to everybody as fast as I can. So feel free to contact me on there. I'm also going to be launching my website, themarkethustle.com, within the next week or so. That's a big project I've been working on lately. So by the time this is out, you might be able to check me out on there. But yeah, those are the two avenues. Feel free to reach out. I love to answer any questions via DMs on Instagram, and would love to help.
Awesome. I'm going to put your website and or your Instagram handle on the description below, of course, so people can follow you. And yeah, if you want to start investing, like Josh said, do your research. And if you have someone to talk about this stuff that they are a little more experienced than you, then talk to them. And yeah, do your research and start investing.
Definitely.
So now we're going to come to the 10 questions, and they're super easy to answer. Just think about it a little bit, and then just tell me your answers. And I think it's going to be interesting for the whole audience to also have a little more background on the way you are, how you think, and all this stuff.
Perfect.
Awesome. So which are your three favorite business books?
So I'd go first with the Intelligent Investor. That's like a business investing book. That's one of the books I give the most credit for. And then I'd probably go with I'm a big fan of Gary Vee. Crushing It is a really good book in my opinion.
Yeah.
And I'd also go with The Millionaire Real Estate Agent, since I
Awesome.
like the real estate industry.
Nice. Okay, second question. Who is your hero or role model? Like the person you admire the most, or you say, okay, I want to be like him or like her.
I'd probably have to go with I'd go with Warren Buffett. I really like what he preaches, and I really try to mirror kind of what he preaches. And I'm always a fan of like go with take advice from the people who've done it. So that's the person I try to take advice from.
Awesome. Have you ever read his letters, like what he wrote
Yes.
every quarter? I've never done that.
Yes.
I
Yeah.
think it's good.
No. Yeah. Definitely. If you have the time, I highly recommend it. There are a lot of value. Some of it's kind of hard to read and understand, but if you can, get to the point where you can understand it, there's a lot of value from them.
Awesome. Okay, number three. Which is the biggest lesson that you've ever learned from a failure or something like that?
Ooh, that's a good one.
Well, like
Um,
you fail and you said, okay, now I'm going to do this differently next time or something.
Yeah, honestly, I would go with, with the market hustle on my Instagram, I felt quite a bit, I would say don't be afraid to try things,
Mm.
don't think, I think that's how I was in the beginning where I was just like, oh, people are gonna not like this, or, trying to like assume things, and like, just don't be afraid to try new things. That's kind of something that I struggled with in the beginning.
Okay, nice. I think that's really powerful, and that speaks to a lot of people because since I've started this journey, I mean, I have way less followers than you, but people notice when you know something about a certain topic and they ask you questions and they are always like, I want to start this and do this and do this. What should I do? And I tell all of them, just start. Like
Yeah.
I've been there and I procrastinated a lot of time. A lot of time. I wasted so many months and hours and days just thinking, okay, what's going to happen and everything. And you should just start and start doing.
Absolutely. And to add on to that, I was actually, and I'll be honest, like when I first started the market hustle, like I was scared of people judging me, like, oh, what are you trying to do and stuff. I was like, oh, this is going to be like all my like business friends are gonna be like, what are you doing? What the hell are you doing on Instagram? But, and they were at first, like, they were kind of like, all right, well, do whatever you want to do. But now that it's at the point where it's at, they're like, okay, all right, I see what you're doing.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
don't be afraid, try to zone out, or, take all the noise out of your environment and really focus in on what you want to build.
Exactly. And just to add on to that, I don't know if you already have TikTok, but there's a lot of people that say, oh, TikTok is just for kids, it's
Yeah.
just a silly app and everything. And I said, okay, give me a little time. And I started a marketing account and I secured a really good handle, the marketing mentor. And
Nice.
I'm already seeing at 10.4 10K followers, and
I love it.
yeah, and it's just like you just have to post regularly. And a friend of mine, he's already at 200K on a marketing account. It's amazing. So
I
I
love it.
think you should start with TikTok too. I mean, you don't have anything to lose, Josh.
That's funny you mentioned that. It's actually something I'm working on as well. So I'm hoping within the next couple of weeks to jump on that as well.
Yeah, the organic reach is it's just crazy. Just you can just post a video and hit 1 million views. It's crazy.
Yeah, it is.
Okay, so sorry. Next question. What's your biggest success so far? I think it's going to be an easy one for you.
Yeah, I would say definitely probably the market hustle. Like it's something that I didn't think it would grow this much, and it's I'm still in the process of it, of course, and there's still a lot of work to be done. But being able to help newer investors, get started, and help basically be there along with their journey is something that I really take to heart. So it's
Yeah,
it's a very big achievement of mine.
awesome. Okay, this is an interesting one. What did you wanted to do when you were a kid? So before you started with the market hustle, like when you were like, I don't know, 10, 12 years old, what was your dream job?
It's funny. I actually wanted to be a doctor for the longest time, which is, I'm in the complete opposite area now.
Yeah.
But yeah, I always wanted to be a doctor. I really like had an interest in that area. But I took a anatomy class in high school, and
Mhm.
that's when I decided that's probably not for me.
Yeah.
It was not. I did not like having to memorize all the body parts and everything. Like that was not a fun
Mm,
time. So
yeah, my girlfriend is doing like occupational therapy, and she has to learn every muscle in the face and just a lot, it's a lot
yeah.
to learn. Yeah, crazy. So number six, what's the biggest passion that you have that brings you the most happiness? Like, I don't know if it's the market hustle, or maybe, I don't know, you like to cook or something. But yeah, what?
Oh, I wish. I'm a terrible cooker, but I would say, honestly, the thing that really gives me the most passion is when I'm able to help other people. And as cliche as that sounds,
Yeah.
it really is. Having the market hustle to where people are thanking me for helping them,
Mm,
get started in investing. Where they were so confused, they had no clue how to start, or they were talking with these, mostly there's a lot of scammers and people that aren't really true to the game on Instagram. So just be trying to be authentic and help people where I can is something that really uh, helps me wake up in the morning and feel good about myself. Just every time I get a DM from somebody who says that I've helped them tremendously, and they thank me for the content I have, like that's something that really makes me feel good, and that's something I want to continue doing. So that's where a lot of my passion comes from, is just helping other people.
nice. I love that. I think I'm on the same track as you are. I'm at the beginning, but I agree with you.
Definitely.
Okay. This is also a good one. If you could learn and master one new skill in just 6 months from now, what would that skill be?
Let's see. It kind of going back to the cooking
Uh,
situation, it probably would be cooking, because like I said, I'm a terrible cooker, and I wish I kind of knew how to do it and to like really be good at cooking,
mm,
because I eat out way too much, and it's something that I'm not proud of. But
yeah,
yeah, if there was one skill that I could just learn really quickly, it'd probably be cooking, just to be able to um, do
yeah,
that at my house and have the convenience of cooking from home.
yeah. And then the money you save from eating out, then you can invest it in the S&P 500 and then earn more money to cook more.
Exactly, exactly.
Nice. Okay, and number 8, where do you see yourself in your business in 10 years?
I love that. Yeah, that's a good question. So I've actually been thinking about this. Like, I'm a pretty ambitious person, and sometimes too ambitious. But I would really like, the market hustle is something that's like it's a big project of mine that I really want to expand as much as I can, because I just want to be able to, first off, eh, tell everybody, be able to announce the importance of investing, because I want to help people basically build a financial future. And I feel like the market hustle is an avenue to where I'm able to do that. So I'd love to be able to really expand the brands, really expand the messages I'm preaching to, tell people who are younger, who are just, getting started in their career, or even people who are already starting their career and haven't started investing,
Mm,
to really convince them to get started investing early for the long term and to build their financial future. Because I see this all the time, where people who are older who didn't really get started, and I've seen them, I've talked to some of them, and they tell me, like, I wish I would have started when I was younger, when I was 20, 30, even 40. you know the earlier you start investing consistently, every week, every 2 weeks, for the long term in your future, the better off you'll be in the long term. And that's something that's the message I'm really trying to expand. So I'd love to be able to, in 10 years, be able to have an avenue that's much bigger, to really
mm,
push out that message, to help others, um, first of all, understand finances and understand investing, and to be able to help them then pull the trigger to build their financial future.
yeah, and I love that, and I think you're, of course, on the right track with your Instagram page, and now doing a website and everything. You're going to, I don't know, probably talk a lot about the stock market, investing, how to handle your money and everything. And if your website and your Instagram page gets more traction, then people are gladly going to be happy to give you some money from exchange from some knowledge and services, and you can like build a really great company out of that. And I think you could definitely achieve that.
That's the goal. Yep.
Nice, love that. Okay, last two questions. First, why, knowing what you know now, what would it what sorry, knowing what
You
you
could.
know now, what would you have done differently as you started in this business world and journey?
So I probably, one of the things that I really struggled with in the beginning was like fear of people like judging me a little bit, like my
Mm,
friends and stuff, like, oh, what are you doing? So I probably would have pulled the trigger sooner, like 2 or 3 years ago, started building this rather than last year. So like, knowing what I know now, um, I, I really built the thing of like, whenever you have an idea, make it happen. Like, don't worry if it's a stupid idea. Don't worry about what people think about it. Just make it happen, because it might be a stupid idea. I've had a bunch of stupid ideas that I've tried to implement, and they were terrible ideas.
Mm.
But you'll have there's a time where you might have that one idea that really hits that you didn't expect to hit, um, and you'll be thankful that you really took the time to execute it and make it happen. Because that's the market hustle is something I never expected it to get this big or this much of a following.
Mm.
And if I didn't just decide to just make it happen and give it a shot, then I wouldn't have what I have today, and have the community I built, and be able to help the people I helped. So yeah, I would say just make it happen, and don't worry about what other people think.
Great. Awesome. Okay, and now we come to the last question. For the people that are listening to this podcast and want to start either an Instagram page or start investing and doing something with their money, what would be your best piece of advice or wisdom that you could give them for, one, starting an Instagram page and growing it successfully, and two, if people want to start investing, what should they do first?
Good question. So let's go with the Instagram page. So the first thing I would say, if you're just getting started, first of all, figure out what you're passionate enough to talk about. This is going to be something you're going to be talking about on your Instagram page like constantly. So you want to find something that you're not going to get bored of, and something that really fires you up to where you'll talk about it for free. Because on Instagram, like, sure, there is money to be made on Instagram, but it takes a long time to get there, and a lot of energy and resources to get there. So you got to make sure you're passionate about it. Another thing is, be patient when you're growing your page, of course, and really try to bring the most value to your followers. Now, when you're just getting started off and you have 0 followers, the one thing I'll say is to follow everybody in your niche and start networking. Talk with the top pages. Talk with the comments. Talk in the comments of the top pages posts. Talk with their audience. Add value in the comments. Like, that's something you got to do to like really build a name for yourself. And it takes time. It's hard work, and this is where a lot of people fail, because it's the hardest part, is like building a name for your page. And the thing is, like I say, is you just got to be consistent, constantly post valuable content, network with the top pages, network in the people's comments, like try to meet some other people that are interested in your idea and interested in what you're talking about in other pages' comments, and really just go at it as much as you can. For the sake of, we'll jump back to investing. If you're just getting started investing, the first thing you're going to want to do is, of course, you got to understand the simple things. You're going to want to, there's so many resources out there, YouTube, Google, to really just get an understanding of the overall stock market and how to get started. And I've really tried to centralize all of that in my page, The Market Hustle. I've built ebooks that I give away for free. They're all on my page, and they just kind of explain the really basics, the generic basics of investing.
Mm-hmm.
Now, for things that I invest or suggest getting invested in or starting with is, of course, investing in the index fund S&P 500. And the fund has a great track record since the 1900s. Like I mentioned earlier, it's gained an average of 10% per year, and it's a great way to passively invest for the long term. And that kind of transitions to the next thing is, you're going to want to keep the long-term vision. Like, if you're looking to just try to make money in a month, 2 months, or even a year or two, don't jump in the stock market. Yeah. You're better off at a casino. So my thing is like, you got to have a long-term plan. You got to have patience. You got to have discipline. And to be honest with you, like, that goes into like every area of life if you want to be successful.
I completely agree with that. I think you said it perfectly. And yeah, I think, it's not only investing, it's everything you do in life. It comes to, if you're studying, if you're working, if you're raising a family, if you're trying to work out the relationship with your spouse or your partner, everything takes time, discipline, and like, you have to think long term. That's the goal, because life is not like a sprint, it's a marathon, and everything you do, try to do it like in long term, because that's going to determine the direction you're going to go.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Josh, for being on the podcast. I think it was really, really good, and the audience is going to love all the insights that you gave regarding the investing part, the Instagram part. Everything that you said was on top, on point. And I'm going to leave all of your information down below so people can contact you. And I hope you enjoyed it too.
I love it. Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate you inviting me onto the podcast. look forward to listen to it, and maybe hopefully we can do another one in the future.
Yeah, of course. Maybe in like 6 months, you're already at 1 million followers. Something like that.
Maybe
No,
I'll be on TikTok then. We'll see.
oh yeah, that's going to be awesome. I'm going to see how my TikTok is going to be doing at that
Here
moment.
we go.
Yeah. Okay, then you have it, guys. Thank you for listening, and yeah, we're going to see you on the next episode. Thank you.
Thank you.